So nutrition therapy, and I believe that most of us here are Christians, and probably a greater majority are Seventh-day Adventists. So it's interesting that anyone who knows what the word nutrition mean, or what does it stand for, nutrition? What does the word nutrition mean? I believe probably therapy most of us might be knowing what it means. Therapy, it might mean treatment. How about nutrition?
Um, Hi all. To me, nutrition stands for the science of food. That's how I understand it. And what we take in and the nutrients. Yeah. So now, the nutrients that are there, that process by which now we are able to acquire them into our body in whole so that they can help us. So if it is vitamins, it is minerals, amino acids, fatty acids like that. But in a nutshell, it's a science of food and it is quite broad. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mary, for your response. Just a minute. Yes, nutrition simply it means the science of food in an essence, and nutrition therapy. If we combine the two words, what we simply just want to study is how we can use food therapeutically. How can we use the amino acids that how can amino acids be used in treatment? How can we acquire them to ensure that the body is managed, or just treated, is managed in good shape, or treated. So nutrition therapy is food treatment, or food therapy, or treatment through diet. And I find that in Genesis chapter, not really Genesis, but Exodus. I believe we are all Christians here. In Exodus chapter 23, verse 25, I believe. So let me get there so that I can read the verse to us. Exodus chapter 23, verse 20. Is it 25 or 24? Allow me get there. So in Exodus chapter 23, verse 25, yes. So Exodus 23:25, we are told that, and ye shall serve the Lord your God, and he shall bless thy bread. Thy bread here means food. And he shall bless thy bread and thy water, and I will take sicknesses away from the midst of thee. What is this verse telling us in an essence? What the verse is saying is, when water is clean, let me write on the top left, clean water plus good food, clean water, plus good food equals a life free of sickness. That's what the verse is trying to say in an essence. Let me read it again. And ye shall serve the Lord your God. So there's an element to worship, or just obedience to the spiritual laws. So and ye shall serve the Lord your God. So obedience to the spiritual laws, and he shall bless thy bread and thy food, I see obedience to the physical laws in that next line. And then we are told that if we are obedient to both the physical and the natural laws, then we'll live a life that is free of any form of sickness. And if probably you're even sick and you obey from a point of love, from a point of knowledge, um, from a point of conviction, if you obey the moral or the spiritual laws and the physical laws or the laws of health, then disease will be removed away from you. So, what do I mean here by clean water plus good food plus the moral laws, obedience to the moral laws equals to a life free of sin? We very well know from research that food, our food choices, will determine our health. The food choices that we make will determine how healthy um, you will be, how healthy or unhealthy you'll probably be in the near future. People normally eat for different reasons. We normally make food choices for different reasons. There are those who eat due to there are those of us who make food choices due to culture. There are those of us who make the food choices due to probably economy or their salaries, what they're able to, what they're able to afford. There is custom attached to it. There are those who make food choices or eat in a particular way due to their own natural preferences or their own preferences. People normally eat or make food choices due to different reasons. But as Christians, as someone who is probably ill, what should inform your food choices? What should inform what you put in your plate, what you put before you in a plate as food? When you read 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 31, I believe we are told that everything that we do, we should do it for the glory of God. We should do it for the glory of God. And we also advised not to put anything that defiles the body. We are not supposed to take or do anything that defiles the body. And here, defiles here would mean several things. An example would be anything that would make you sickly, and so on and so forth. And so there are those who also make food choices due to health reasons, health concerns, which is really a good reason. You're trying as much as possible not to defile your body. And me personally, I believe that the only reason, there are two reasons. One of them, the only reasons why you should eat a particular article of food, number one is because it is healthy. It is healthy, or it is good. Number two, because it will uplift you or it will enable you glorify God. Glorifying God here would mean it will enable you reflect His character, the kind of food that you choose to eat. So foods affect different organs of the body in different ways. And you know, when you eat the kind of foods that arouse your baser, the baser nature, your baser nature, or or the animal tendencies in you, the animal qualities in a man, then you'll always tend to be let's say, don't know how best I can put this so that it doesn't sound like an insult. Um, but let's just leave it at that. People eat due to different reasons, and there are two reasons majorly why you should eat. You shouldn't eat because the kind of food is palatable or sweet. but at the same time, you shouldn't eat something that is not palatable and sweet. It is okay and good to eat sweet and palatable food, but that shouldn't be the only reason. You shouldn't eat something that is palatable or sweet um, at the cost of injuring your health, at the cost of injuring your health. So I'd really love us to understand nutrition therapy and how different food choices, how different foods affect our health. So nutrients are just some compounds or chemicals that are found in food, and they are used to build the body. You are what you eat. You are what you eat. The blood that runs through your veins, the blood that runs through your arteries, your blood vessels, is made from the food that you eat. There are proteins in the blood, the amino acids that are gotten from your legumes, they're gotten from your green leafy vegetables, they're gotten from your grains, the seeds, the nuts, you know. Um, your muscles, your muscles need energy, which your muscles need glucose to function optimally, and the energy or the food that they need is gotten from the food that you eat. The glucose that your cells need to make energy is gotten from the carbohydrates that you take, or probably the nuts or the oils that you eat. And so food is very, very essential to us, and there are about 7 classes of food that we should always ensure that we take in moderation, balanced. So in moderation, in a balanced way, and also you should ensure that the combination is good. We'll also talk about combination at the end of our lecture, how we can combine um, these 7 classes of food so that we can just ensure optimal or optimum health. So there's carbohydrates, protein, fats, minerals, vitamins, fiber, and water. These are common things to us. And we know there is macronutrients and then there's micronutrients. Micro are those kind of nutrients or chemicals that you cannot see with your own physical eye. An example are your minerals and vitamin, and also some fiber cannot be seen using the using your naked eye, the fibers that you can see using your eye. So this is all that you need as a person to live or have an optimal life. But there's deep, there's more into this. There's more into this, and I'll how important is nutrition? I'll just skip that slide and go to the next. So it is important that everyone consumes these 7 nutrients on a daily basis to help them build their bodies and maintain their health. And God's original source of good nutrients, we find it in Genesis chapter 1, verse 29, where in their sinless state, Adam and Eve used to eat grains. And grains here, we are talking about legumes, we are talking about cereals, we are talking about nuts, we are talking about seeds. And then the other thing was fruits. So this is what man ate or used to eat in his sinless state. This was the perfect diet. This was the perfect will of God in terms of diet for man. But when man sinned, he decided to introduce vegetables because he knew that with sin there'll be diseases, and in most vegetables are healing properties. There is what is called as phytochemicals or plant chemicals in vegetables that are very essential in ensuring that, an example, let's say we have soluble fibers in vegetables that help to ensure that the low density lipoprotein and the high density lipoprotein is always put in check to ensure that there is no plaguing of the arteries. I believe clear. Allow me plug my laptop to a charger. Can you guys see my slide and probably hear my voice? Claudia.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we have dried fruits and vegetables, and actually you should just take keen note of what we'll discuss today, because in the medical camp, one of the main reasons, not really the medical camp, but the health expo, one of the main reasons why we normally have them is to ensure that the larger masses out there are educated on this particular matter diet. It normally goes a long way in ensuring their physical health, or their physical well-being. So you should take keen note of all this. And today I'll give us time to ask questions actually, because these matters, the matter diet is quite confusing. I remember yesterday, um, yesterday was Saturday. I was somewhere in Karen for a health Sabbath, and there were lots of questions, and we really couldn't seem to agree on some basic principles on health with some of the church members who are there. But either way, we know that truth is inspired of God, and no matter the opposition that it will always face, it will always triumph. It will always triumph at last. So we have grains, fruits, and vegetables. Those are the greatest and the perfect sources of good nutrients. Grains, fruits, and vegetables. You have to eat nuts, you have to eat seeds, you have to eat legumes, you have to eat cereals, fruits, and vegetables. Um, Remember, fruits are very important, and vegetables, mostly the kachumbari. To those who are in Kenya, kachumbari is very important. Ellen White says that most of us fall sick because we eat too much of cooked food. And you know, the cooked food that we eat a lot is dead food, overcooked food. And so most of us rarely take vitamins. And you know, vitamins are very therapeutic in terms of um, boosting the immunity and just other things that we'll see as we study. So we have carbohydrate as one of the greatest, so one of the nutrients that we need. We really won't get deeply into what carbohydrates entail and all that, but what we know from our 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 primary our nursery science is we have we have carbohydrates are made up of carbon, high some water, and hydrogen. That's one of the things that we know, and we also know that we have different types of carbohydrate. We have the polysaccharides. We have polysaccharides, monosaccharides, and oligosaccharides. We really won't get deeply into that. We'll discuss these things at a surface level, but we normally offer some trainings where these are normally discussed deeply for um yeah for anyone who would really love to know all these things in detail. You can always reach out. We are beginning a training on January, and and all of you are invited. So carbohydrates are the foods that energize the body. And when carbohydrates are broken down to their simplest form, you'll always get glucose. You'll always get glucose, there's sucrose, and other things. But let's just focus on glucose. Glucose will give you energy. Glucose will give you glucose foods. Glucose is used by cells to actually make energy for your body. Glucose is used by the brain to ensure glucose is used by the brain cells to make energy and all that. And so you need carbohydrates in um, high amounts or in enough quantities to ensure that your body is always energized and kept running. So the main sources of these energy giving foods, let's read what is in the slide before we go to the main sources. So carbohydrates are your body's main sources of energy. They help fuel your brain, your kidneys, your heart, muscles, and the central nervous system. For instance, fiber is a carbohydrate that aids in digestion. And when we study these things deeply, you'll get to learn that in your digestive system, there is what is known as the bioflora, or there is what is known as flora. And there's what is known as flora or the gut flora. Let's say gut flora. Gut is more or less just a tube. Gut is gut is a tube that's from your mouth all the way to the anal region. So gut flora is more or less a balance of good and bad bacteria. And so in the digestive system, there are those bacteria that are good and bad, non-pathological bacteria, and the good bacterias. Okay, what am I even saying? The good and bad, let me just say good and bad bacteria. They normally feed on what is known as fiber, most of them for their survival. And if you take foods that are highly refined without carbohydrate, without fiber, let's say an example is rice, you'll always tend to erode or corrode, or probably just kill these particular microbes. You'll kill these particular microbes. And such highly refined foods are worse for the mucus lining of your stomach. There's a protective lining in the stomach that helps in just keeping the acid from digesting your stomach walls or digesting the flesh or the meat just behind it or just below it. Anyways, let's proceed. We'll get to learn more of that when talking about the digestive system. So it helps you feel full and keeps blood cholesterol levels in check. As I said, there are some soluble fibers that help in ensuring that the LDL and the HDL are always kept in their balance, are always kept in check. And when LDL rises above normal, cholesterol levels normally rises. LDL is the low density um, lipoprotein. It is normally termed the bad cholesterol. It is normally known as the bad cholesterol, and then the HDL is called the good cholesterol. So I believe the main sources of these of carbohydrates are your majorly it's tubers, your tubers. An example of tuber is your Irish potato. Let's just say potatoes, both the Irish and the sweet potatoes, those are tubers. And there's a kind of carbohydrate called starch that is high in Irish potatoes. And yeah, there's your tubers. And here we have Irish potato. Irish potatoes. I said let's just write potatoes. Today I didn't include slides to write on. I was in some medical camp in Kibra and I really didn't find time to go through my slides and update and do all that. But we'll proceed nonetheless. Potatoes. We have um, we have cassava. We have cassava. Amongst others, and then on top of the tubers, we have certain cereals. That also helps. An example is the maize. Maize, if you're diabetic, um, avoid the white one. You can always use the yellow maize or any other color. There's maize on cereals. What other thing should I? What other thing? We have rice, the brown rice. I didn't really recommend anyone to take white rice. Brown rice, and brown rice should always be soaked. And when you soak, there's arsenic. When rice is grown in a rice farm, arsenic it normally gets arsenic from the fertilizers that are used. It normally gets arsenic from the environment and everything. So when you soak rice, and only brown rice can be soaked, the arsenic content normally reduces in it. So rice, and when I say rice, I basically just mean the brown rice, amongst others. And what else? There's millet, there's sorghum, there's a lot. You can actually just Google and know what carbohydrates are. Yeah, so I'll proceed to vitamins. Vitamins and minerals are considered essential. And by essential, it means that you need to get them from your diet. You need to get them from your diet or from the foods that you eat. The body does not in any way manufacture or make them. The same thing to carbohydrates. The same thing to carbohydrates. So, and these are some of the functions that the vitamins and minerals form. Number one, it helps show up bones. An example of such mineral is calcium. And calcium, the bones are not made of calcium alone. And so you do not need calcium alone to make your bones. You need a balance of minerals to ensure that your bones are healthy and strong. You need phosphorus, you need calcium. And I think there are almost 36 minerals that are needed. And so the notion that milk make healthy bones and makes strong bones and teeth, um, it's a misconception because bones are not made of calcium alone. And to even make matters worse, the calcium that is in milk is it's more it's a lot of calcium that you really don't need to ingest or take into your body that once. So there are vitamins that and minerals that helps in wound healing, vitamin K and the others. There are those that helps to boost your immunity, vitamin C, zinc as a mineral helps in boosting immunity as well, amongst others. They convert food into energy and repair cellular damage. An example is vitamin C, vitamin E. Vitamin E really helps um, in ensuring that the cells are not oxidized. The cells are not oxidized, or they're not killed by being denied oxygen. That is what oxidization is. And what normally um, makes cells to get oxidized are your deep fried foods or a polluted environment, the air if it is polluted, alongside the enzymes that comes from meat. Any kind of meat, they normally um, kill cells. So things like vitamin C really helps with the cellular damage. Things like zinc helps with cellular damage, the repair, and the rest. So vitamins and minerals are very, very essential. I believe my voice is clear. I can
Yes, it is. But we lost you now.
what word did you guys get? The last word I said. I just realized I was logged out. I'm using my phone for audio so that the YouTube, so that we can have an audio um, for YouTube video. What was the last word that you guys had me say? The last statement, probably. Trying to move a little bit.
Um, the last thing I had was function of vitamin C for the cells.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. So you guys didn't hear me talk about proteins.
No, 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 no.
Okay. So I was saying that vitamins and minerals are very, very essential in terms of ensuring optimal health. Some people, it is actually if some diseases like hypertension, there are those a greater percentage of hypertensive patients normally have hypertension because of lack of potassium, which is a mineral, and potassium is, you can find potassium in high amounts in your in your ripe bananas in high amounts. There is potassium in baobab powder in high amounts. There's also a mineral called magnesium. Mostly magnesium deficiency normally contributes to essential hypertension. We'll be able to understand hypertension. There are two major types of hypertension. Essential hypertension is normally related, mostly it's related to dietary lifestyle practices, and there's no proper cause normally for it medically. So minerals are very essential. An example, the magnesium and potassium, they normally help in ensuring that your blood vessels are kept flexible and in good tone. You know, when um, there are things like cigar smoking or fried foods that harden the blood vessels. Things like sodium chloride, they normally harden blood vessels. But if you take potassium, if you take magnesium, magnesium normally ensures that your blood vessels are flexible. It works against the hardening of blood vessels and all that. And so minerals and vitamins you should always ensure that um, in your dietary choices, vitamins and minerals are checked. And for vitamins, it's a little bit tricky because they normally tend to denature when exposed to heat. When exposed to heat. An example, when you're cooking your vegetables, you know, vitamins are mostly in vegetables and fruits. And most of us actually eat vegetables than fruits. And so that would mean that most of us don't get enough or sufficient vitamins that we really or we truly need, because these are things that you should eat daily. And most of us overcook our vegetables. Most of us overcook our vegetables. And so it is normally advised that for you to get enough vitamins and minerals as you should, minerals have no problem in terms of exposure to heat. They really won't denature. But for vitamins, you have to be very keen. You have to be very keen. So what happens? What should what happens? How can we solve this? By ensuring that at least the greater percentage of your food should always be raw. Should always be raw. And it is always advised 60 to 40%. 60 to 40%. You don't really have to do the calculations, but you can always just use your eye and see and know. Raw foods can be eaten in form of your fruit salad or your vegetable salad. Vegetable salad is the kachumbari that you know, and you can always make it as tasty as possible, as tasty as possible. So I think I'll just move to the next slide, because most of these things we'll talk about them when talking about lifestyle diseases. I just wanted to do some introduction to them. So proteins and legumes. Proteins are found mostly in legumes, and they play a key role in the creation and maintenance of every cell in our body, from the healing of wounds um, to the building of muscles. It fuels our cells and powers our bodies. It's normally resorted to last after carbohydrates and fats are depleted. Proteins can always be used for fuel as well. So proteins are made up of some small building blocks called amino acids. Yeah. And so examples of proteins here are your green grams. I can see some split peas here, the yellow one, some chickpeas. I see some almonds, some broccoli. You can get your proteins from spinach. You can get your proteins from flax seeds, from your pumpkin seeds. I see some walnuts here in this picture, and so on and so forth. Legumes, seeds, and nuts. You'll always find proteins in them. You don't need animal sources for your proteins. You do not need milk to get your protein. You do not need meat to get your protein. You can always get it from plant sources, enough and healthy kind of proteins. Why our bodies need protein? Number one, proteins are very essential, but we really don't need them in high amounts as compared to carbohydrates or vegetables. We don't need legumes or protein giving foods in high amounts as compared to carbohydrates and vegetables. As a matter of fact, we need vegetables more than any other group of food, than any other food component. Vegetables should always be more, followed by your carbohydrates and then the proteins. I really want to tell you, CJ, you should eat ugali that is the size of your feast or something. But the principle that I know, the principle that works is ensure that the largest percentage of your food is raw. The largest percentage of the food that you're taking is raw vegetable salad. And then in the when taking your in the cooked food, the largest percentage should be your vegetables as well, followed by carbohydrates, then proteins. Proteins are not needed in high quantities as we normally think. So proteins, they always help in building your bones, building your muscles, the cartilage, more or less, um, let me call them flesh, but they're not flesh. Well, they're flesh, they're not muscles. So cartilages are normally the flesh that combines or connects bone to bone, and you need it in building of your skin. In fact, your hair and nails are composed mostly of proteins. So you need protein for repair of dead um, tissues, for the repair of wounds, and the red blood cells contain a protein compound that helps in carrying oxygen. So protein is needed for oxygenation. Um, about half of the dietary protein that you consume each day goes into making enzymes, which aids in digesting food and making new cells and body chemicals. That's how important proteins are. It helps in the regulation of hormones, hormonal regulations as well. And when you take flesh proteins or animal-based proteins, they'll always be imbalance. They'll always create some imbalances in hormonal regulation. Why? Because you'll always get the proteins in high quantities that you really do not need, that your body does not need, and you'll be burdening your body. So we have broccoli, we have soya, we have chickpeas, pumpkin seed, groundnuts, green grams, beans. There are normally a variety of beans that you can always eat to give you proteins. And then from fiber is a type of carbohydrate that the body can't digest. Though most carbohydrates are broken down into sugar molecules, fiber cannot be broken down into sugar molecules, and instead it passes through the body undigested. Fiber helps regulate body's use of sugars, help to keep hunger by ensuring that you are it normally keeps you satisfied quickly. Mostly there are fibers that absorb water and all that, and it creates some sense of satiety in you. It also keeps the blood sugar in check by ensuring that the sugar that gets into the blood gets there very slowly. There is no sugar rush. Protein fiber ensures that there is no sugar rush. So protein fiber can be gotten from your whole from your whole grains, from your whole grains. You can see there's some pasta here, which is whole wheat. I wouldn't recommend anyone who is sick. If you are in good health, it's okay, you can take wheat. But if you are probably having a lifestyle condition, I wouldn't really recommend you taking wheat. So there's some spaghetti here from there's some brown spaghetti here. Can always find them in Carrefour if you're someone who likes spaghetti. There's some good whole grain spaghetti from wheat that is gotten in Carrefour if you come from Kenya. And so on. So fiber is very, 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 very essential, and it helps in ensuring that you're not constipated. It increases your bowel movement. So the benefits of high fiber: it helps you live longer. It aids in achieving your ideal weight. It helps control blood sugar level, lowers cholesterol levels, help maintain bowel health. And most conditions or most diseases normally begin from a dirty gut, and we'll be able to understand that. So normalize bowel movement. And there are several, all these foods, you'll always find fiber in them, from your vegetables to your carbohydrates to your protein. You'll always find one to two different forms of fiber in such foods. I see there's asparagus here, very nice vegetable. Um, yeah. So I'll proceed to the next slide. The benefits of fiber, we've seen this, and so I'll just move to fats. So fats is very, very essential. There are those who have reformed, and they normally badmouth fat, and they say that food should be cooked without oil. Food should always be cooked without fat. Let me tell you that you need fats. Your cells need fat. Your neurons, they need fat. Actually, your brain cells, the neurons, they are normally coated with some fat called lecithin that is found in soybeans, that is found in your vegetables. And fats are very, very helpful in terms of ensuring that the fat soluble vitamins are utilized in your body well or fully. So fats are normally not bad. But what we should ask ourselves, or rather, what we should know is that there are good fats and there are bad fats. So what are these fats that are not good? What are these fats that are not good? So healthfully high fat foods are not something to shy away from. Cook with your fats, but what kind of fats? The body needs a certain amount of fat from the diet. Actually, you know, um, it's interesting from biochemistry. Okay, it's interesting that fats normally provide you with energy more than carbohydrates. And the body normally prefers using the energy that comes from fats. Why? Because they are not bulky to store. They do not absorb water. They're not bulky to store, and they're easily digested. So if you compare carbohydrates to fats, let's say equal grams, 1 to 1 gram, you'll always find that fats will give you more amounts of energy or calories as compared to carbohydrates. And so you need fats a lot. And the body needs a certain amount of fat from the diet to aid hormone function, memory, and the absorption of specific nutrients. Do you know that almost every hormone in your body is normally digested from cholesterol? Even the sperms, almost even vitamin D, the vitamin D3 that we get from sunlight, it is cholesterol that helps in ensuring that the vitamin D3 is changed to vitamin D so that it can be easily utilized in the body. And so fats are very, very essential for us. And there are some good sources of fats. And I'll mention an example is linseed or the flax seeds. There's almonds, there's avocado, there's chia seeds, there's coconut, there's simsim or sesame. Sesame, you can call it simsim as well. There's simsim. There's cashew nuts, there's apricots. Um, there's also soya beans it has fats, and so on and so forth. These are good sources of fats. These are good sources of fats. Um, These are good sources of fat. So you can always get fats from your seeds and your nuts. Number one, seeds and nuts. Can get your fats from your seeds and nuts. And you should always ensure that you take fats daily from seeds and nuts. You can always just combine them wisely, as we will see, as we will see. And last, there's what is known as free fats. There's what is known as free fats. Free fats are the kinds of oil that we use to cook. An example is your Elianto, or the coconut oil, or the sunflower oil. The liquid oils that we use to cook, the free fats, they've been extracted from their initial, from their parent state, or from their parent nature. Those are the free fats. So under free fats, we normally have the good kind of fats and the bad kind of fats. We'll be able to understand what these things are. So healthy or good fats will always help in lowering the risk of heart disease. It will always lower LDL, the bad cholesterol, and increase good HDL. Cholesterol, the LDL is normally called bad cholesterol. It is only bad when it's higher than the HDL, or if it is higher than the recommended unit. So it helps in to prevent abnormal heart rhythms. It lowers triglyceride. Triglyceride is a type of fat in your blood that normally hardens your blood vessels, and it could easily cause hypertension. And high triglyceride levels normally heightens inflammation. And one of the things that could lead to triglycerides being high in your blood are your simple carbohydrates. The highly refined carbohydrates, they'll always tend to raise triglyceride levels in your blood, thus increasing inflammation and increasing the risk of getting diabetes and hypertension. The other thing is just taking the bad fats. The bad fats would, the LDL, as LDL rises, triglyceride levels also rises. But when HDL rises, the high density lipoprotein rises, it lowers triglyceride levels. So good fats also helps in lowering blood pressure. So what are these good fats? So mostly for the bad fats, your trans fats. Trans fats are normally found in your vegetable oils like Elianto. They're normally found in deep fried foods. They're normally found in packaged foods. So you should just read your packages, your food packages, to see whether the kind of product that you've bought has trans fat. Trans fats will always tend to um, increase blood pressure or worsen blood pressure. And diabetes is a fat disease. Diabetes is normally caused, mostly diabetes type 2. It's normally caused due to, when the fats block your cell's ability to utilize glucose, or the bad fats can make your cells to become insensitive to a particular hormone called insulin that is really needed to ensure that sugar levels in your blood are reduced. So avoid trans fats. The other kind of bad fats. So as I said, trans fats, you'll always find them in your deep fried foods and um in baked items. Just check your ingredients when buying anything from the supermarket, and all that. It will also be found in your vegetable fats like canola. You have Elianto and all that. Avoid trans fat. Trans fats are actually even bad than saturated fats. They are worse. And saturated fats are bad kind of fats. So if we were to study nutrition deeply, you learn that there are two types of saturated fats. There are long-chain saturated fats, there are short-chain saturated fats, and the long chains of saturated fats are normally worse than the short-chained ones. And these kind of fats are normally found in your flesh foods. They're normally found in your eggs. They're normally found in your milk. And saturated fats is bad for cancer. It is bad for hypertension. It is bad for cardiovascular health and your endocrine health, diabetes, hypertension, cancer, alongside other lifestyle diseases. So when talking to a hypertensive patient, a diabetic patient, these are some of the things that you should explain to them. Of major interest to diabetic patients, always ensure that you talk to them about fats, because most of them normally think that the problem is sugar. Your enemy is not the sugar. It is okay, the sugar is a lot in the blood, but why is the sugar a lot in the blood? It is number one culprit is normally fat, alongside other things that we'll mention. The other kind of bad fat is your dietary intake of cholesterol. The liver normally makes about 80% of cholesterol that your body needs. So if you take dietary intake of cholesterol, actually cholesterol is not that bad. But what is bad is your oxidized cholesterol. Oxidized cholesterol. So dietary intake of oxidized cholesterol. And oxidized cholesterol here would mean um, the foods that have cholesterol. If you boil if you fry them, the cholesterol in it will become oxidized, and that is more or less putting a rope on your neck and hanging yourself on a tree. An example of oxidized cholesterol, an example of a place where you can find oxidized cholesterol is your deep is your fried eggs. Eggs normally have cholesterols, and when you fry your eggs, you're oxidizing the cholesterol, and so you'll be you'll be hurting your health. So oxidized cholesterol. Um, don't misquote me somewhere or anywhere. I've said oxidized cholesterol, saturated fats, and to be specific, the long chain saturated fats. You can just try it and do more research and know what these long chain saturated fats are. They normally tend to cause hardening of arteries alongside other things. Trans fats are actually the worst, and trans fats are nowadays found everywhere and anywhere. If you take KFC foods, be sure that the trans fats have been used there in loads. So what is cholesterol? A fat substance that is used to control leakage of blood from the vessels and the artery. Cholesterol is good. Cholesterol is good, but what is not good is the oxidized cholesterol or any kind of oil that will tend to increase the low density cholesterol. So we've talked about food, but why haven't we mentioned flesh? Why shouldn't flesh be eaten? Why shouldn't we take milk? Why shouldn't we take eggs as a people? So all animal products, especially rotten flesh, contain high amounts of fats that we've mentioned. There's saturated fats in flesh. There's the trans fats if you deep fry your fresh, and most people in their cooking of flesh, there's normally frying somewhere in their cooking of flesh. Flesh has cholesterol also in it. So the moment an animal loses its life, it starts decomposing. So whenever meat is eaten, it decomposes in your intestines, and it will cause irritable bowel syndrome, and thus, the irritable bowel syndrome suppresses the serotonin receptors in your brain, causing low mood. Um, Anyone who knows what serotonin is? Anyone who has studied about stress, sleep, anyone who knows what serotonin is? Yes, Asna.
It's one of the hormones which are used for sleep.
Yes, Daniel.
It's a hormone that helps control sleep and also body clock.
Okay, thank you. So you guys can just go research more about serotonin. It's yeah, serotonin. So when you have irritable bowel syndrome, I really don't know how simple I can put this. But we'll talk about the irritable bowel syndrome. It's a condition that affects the colon. Normally affects the colon, and such people they tend to have gas a lot. You know, they normally tend to have constipation a lot. Daniel, you've raised your hand again.
Yeah, serotonin it's also called tryptoamine, and it's present in platelets, brain, and intestinal walls, and it mostly causes intestinal wall secretion and contraction of intestinal walls, and also it's essential in blood clotting and neurotransmission in the CNS.
Yes, CNS is the central nervous system. So I'll give you guys an assignment to go study something called the circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm. Okay, let me just write it well. Google will give you the correct spelling. So that's not the spelling of circadian rhythm. There's an R somewhere and all that. Google will give you the correct spelling. So you can go do more research on the circadian rhythm so that you can know hormones like serotonin, melatonin, and all that. Yeah. So I'll just continue. You'll know about serotonin more, and you'll also know about melatonin more. They normally help in regulating sleep alongside other things that Daniel has said. So they contribute to iron overload, calcium overload, that's flesh, calcium overload, protein overload, artery paralysis, and increased aging. Increased aging. So artery paralysis here, simply it means death to it causes death to your arteries by either plaguing it. Plaguing it here would simply mean um, your arteries, they normally have very thin, they're normally thick, the arteries. So plaguing would mean deposit of fats in the artery lumen, deposit of fats in the artery lumen, and so on. So when excess protein is produced in the blood, calcium is drawn to neutralize the acid, leaving the bones bare, causing arthritis. This is very essential. When excess protein is produced in the blood, calcium is drawn to neutralize the acidity, leaving the bones bare, causing arthritis. So one of the things that the body normally does to ensure that homeostasis, everything is kept in balance. The blood should not in any way be acidic. If your blood gets acidic, you can just get a heart attack and probably die if you're not helped immediately. So when excess protein, very high protein can make the blood acidic, but the body won't allow it to. So there are mechanisms like leaching out of calcium from your bones to ensure that that particular acid is neutralized, or the pH of the pH of your blood is maintained. The blood is normally, it's normally neutral pH, about 7.25 to 7.35 pH. It's normally that's the range. So those who have arthritis, you should always advise them to stop taking any kind of meat, white or red. So anything with high proteins, flesh, milk. Actually, these things, proteins, as we have also seen, they tend to increase inflammation. So for pigs, we really don't even have to talk about it because the Bible says these are unclean animals. They have been genetically modified actually to grow over a dozen times faster than normal, which promotes, and actually pig meat is the sweetest. Myself, I've eaten pork in my days of ignorance. I think I was in primary by then. It was a very long time ago, which promotes disease, illnesses, and the growth of excruciating tumors and bodily defects. They feed on human wastes with parasite worms and sewage waste. So, what about chicken? The bodies have been genetically modified to the point that they grow 300 times faster than normal. Their bones shatter under the weight of their flesh because it grows so abnormally. Someone would ask me, what about a free range um, free range um, free range traditional hen. As we've said, proteins, they're normally in excess. Hence, normally, white meat normally has excess saturated fats that are really not essential. What about seafoods? Those of us from the lake, or rather just fish. Number one, they contain heavy metals like mercury. And actually, you'll realize that in Kenya, when you look at the statistics of when you look at cancer statistics, you'll understand that most the brain cancer is a lot or high in the lake region. Brain cancer is a lot of the cancers that are related to mercury are normally a lot in the lake region. So there's lead, there's mercury, there's cadmium, that have been found in some seafoods, especially those at the top of the food chain, like marlin shark, swordfish, and the king mackerel. So environmental pollutants like arsenic from industrial releases, batteries, paints, and dyes find their way to the marine life. Excessive and unregulated intake of such fish containing these heavy metals can result in impaired cognitive, mental, and physical health. Someone would ask, what about fish that is raised in a fish pond? You know, they are normally given artificial foods that tend to ensure that they grow fast, foods that hormonal that have that interfere with the hormonal that interfere with the growth hormones in their body, and these will in turn interfere with your hormones. You personally will probably cause hormonal imbalances or tumors feed tumors. So also mercury poisoning through seafood can also increase the risk of autoimmune diseases in women. A good example of an autoimmune disease is rheumatoid arthritis. Also, oil supplements may up risk of heart rhythm disorders if you have high blood lipids. Lipids here are just fats. Studies say that the cardiovascular is your heart health, the circulatory health. Cardiovascular is your heart, your blood vessels, and the blood. That is cardiovascular, heart, the blood vessels, and the blood. So studies say that the cardiovascular benefit of fish are undone by the presence of these heavy metals in the seafood. So the viral infections that are normally caused as a result of taking such flesh foods, they carry infectious viruses like norovirus, hepatitis virus that attack the liver. Norovirus can cause problems like fever, headache, diarrhea, nausea, stomach pain, body aches, hepatitis that last for several weeks and months. Hepatitis is the inflammation of your liver, inflammation of the liver that is commonly viral. And hepatitis is actually very dangerous. An example is hepatitis B, which is worse. It's better to have HIV than hepatitis B. It's normally very worse. And it's transmitted even by contact. It's normally transmitted by even contact. So hepatitis and the rest. So in terms of toxins, contain organic toxins. It contains several organic toxins, and more than 90% of the human dioxin, a type of toxin exposure, is through diet. Dairy is through diet in your dairy intake, your meat intake, your fish intake, and your products. So these are reasons why you shouldn't actually be eating any animal-based product or any animal-based food. And you know, the worst is these things can be transferred to the child through the placenta or even breast milk. So they can cause bacterial infection. An example is your milk can easily cause bacterial infection. Your meat, if you're someone who eats mtura a lot, mtura contains some kind of bacteria called Clostridium. It's a type of bacteria that is normally found in feces. So eating mtura is like just eating feces, buying feces and eating feces. So these pathogens cause a host of gastric health problems like diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, and abdominal pain. So this is just an overview of all these things. We'll deeply study abdominal pains if time will allow. Yeah, so there are also parasites that you can find in animal foods. There are those, actually pig, it has parasites that cause some brain conditions. You know, people with compromised immune system, defective liver function, diabetes, and elderly are particularly at risk. They are particularly at risk. The tapeworm, those are types of parasites that might be caused by eating these dead. Actually, Ellen White says that in flesh, flesh contains germs. Those are the parasites, the bacteria, the viruses, and tumors, and tumors, tumors, and tumors. So you shouldn't really be eating these things. How safe really is cow milk? How safe is cow milk? Are there any reasons why we should take cow milk? As I have said, most people take cow milk due to calcium. And the calcium levels in cow milk is actually in excess than you need. Some of us take it due to proteins, and the proteins in cow milk is in excess than you actually need. But then there are other things like the types of fats, as we said. Let's see, milk is high and high has high or excess calcium and phosphate salts that inhibit the absorption of iron from the intestines. That is little in iron, thus causing anemia in infants. You know, most of us, even cats normally don't like milk, even cats themselves. But when we were being brought up as children in school, nursery, we used to be taught how much cats love milk. High fats which interfere with the urinary excretion of uretes. It causes allergies. It may not cause at infancy stage or childhood, but as you age, congestion, hay fever, asthma. Actually, today I met someone with I believe he was about 32 years old. He had a very severe form of allergy that normally comes to him during cold season. And the attack normally just comes at night, and he's a very heavy milk drinker. So it causes mucus. It causes mucus. Dairy products cause formation of mucus in the system that at times might block the respiratory system and cause such blockages. And you know, when you take milk, um, you'll asthma will always be a friend. Will always be a friend to asthma. So no enzyme for milk. I'll actually send you guys a video. It's a scientific study where they studied the difference between the milk that come from hybridized cows and the milk that comes from the free the traditional cows that we know, and the specific enzymes that are related to autoimmunity that was studied in milk. And it's interesting that in as much as the traditional the milk that is found in the milk that is found in the dairy, what am I even now saying, the milk found in um, the genetically modified cows, your dairy cows, the cows that are not traditional, they're normally very worse in ensuring that your body is filled with diseases, in ensuring that there is autoimmunity. You know, allergies are more or less just autoimmune conditions. And the dairy milk the dairy milks that we normally buy on on the on the counter, they normally come to us from genetically modified cows. They normally come to us from genetically modified, and they're the worst. They're the worst. Um, huh. So I'm not trying to say that you should take milk from a free range cow, a traditional free range cow. It will still have excess proteins. It will still have excess proteins alongside other enzymes that you really don't need to take up into your body. So cow milk can never be digested. That's one of the things. Mostly if you're an adult, the hormone that is responsible in digesting milk normally depreciates. This is even taught in medical school, biochemistry, simple biochemistry, where we are told that the hormone depreciates in adults as you continue growing, and so milk cannot be digested or utilized easily. And so, no enzyme for milk digestion. Renin and lactose are only in infants up to age 3 in humans. The cow has 300 times more casein than human. Casein is a type of protein that is in milk. And so you see where the excess amount of proteins now comes in. And you know, this particular protein will feed tumors. And if you have cancer and you still take milk, no matter how many chemotherapy sessions you go, radiotherapy sessions you go, the tumor will reduce and it will just increase again. It will reduce and increase, and you'll always be going for sessions and sessions and sessions. The large amount of casein is necessary for the development of cows' huge bones. Casein coagulates in the stomach and forms large, tough, dense, difficult to digest curds that are adapted to the four stomach digestive apparatus of a cow, different from a human being. Once in the human body, this thick mass of casein puts a big burden in the body's alimentary system. That's why you'll always, some patients, like some people, if you have a very weak digestive system, you'll always have runny stomach after intake of milk, or probably bloating after intake of meat. I met a patient today in a medical camp who actually had a similar problem. So casein is the base of the strongest glue used in woodwork, a protein, casein. So these are reasons why you shouldn't take milk. high fats which interfere with the urinary excretion, very high calcium. It causes mucus, which at times might cause congestion and other autoimmune condition. It has enzymes that have very difficult names to pronounce. I'll send to us the research. So these are reasons why you shouldn't. So let's talk about commercial milk now. Great quantities of vitamin D causes loss of magnesium from the heart muscles, which in turn causes the heart to flatter. It causes the arrhythmias of the heart. We talked about the heart rhythms increases. It causes hardening of bones, renal calcification. Renal here simply it means the kidney, and its accessories, renal calcification, and severe mental retardation in offspring due to high vitamin D intake. Recommended allowance is normally 400 units. That's for vitamin D. In excess causes hardening of arteries, abnormal deposits in your tissues and joints causing arteries. Actually, today I met with a patient. She had diabetes, hypertension, and arthritis, bone inflammation, arthritis, inflammation of the joints, arthritis. And she was telling me that I was telling her about the dietary plan, her dietary plan to escape these conditions. And when I was telling her about milk, she told me that when she takes milk, her pressure normally increases. Her pressure normally increases, and she normally feels very, very tired at times. So hardening of arteries can increase pressure. Deposit of calcium on the arteries could cause the hardening of the arteries. The fats that are there in the milk could cause the hardening of the arteries, the saturated fats. And the saturated fats, also increases the LDL levels, and this will cause deposits of fats. It's called atherosclerotic plaguing, deposit of fats in the lumen of your blood vessels, the arteries. So diseases have also increased in animals. Milk causes other diseases. Animal feeds uses antibiotics and hormones that turn up in both meat and milk. This is very essential. The antibiotics and the hormones that are normally fed to animals, they normally end up in the meat and the milk that you drink. And so you'll be having hormonal imbalances, and you'll be having congestions, and you'll probably even be having resistance to certain bacteria. So from these animals to cause health problems in humans who consume them. Okay, so let's talk about the other things in animal foods. The spirit of prophecy says that if you take animal flesh, you become more animal-like, which is true. There are hormones, the hydrocorticosteroid hormone, that is hormone 19, which is normally released, which the animal, it's a precursor to cortisol hormone. Cortisol hormone is a stress hormone. It's a precursor to cortisol hormone. So when an animal is cut or when an animal is killed, it normally produces that particular hormone in very large amounts. And what happens when you eat that particular meat? You take that hydrocorticosteroid hormone, and it will start causing issues to you, stresses, and behaving, being irritable, and such things. It's called hormone 19. Hormone 19. It's interesting. I even don't know the spelling of hormone. Hormone 19. And the other thing is arachidonic acid that really influences, that affects cognitive function. Arachidonic acid is normally found largely in meat. Arachidonic acid is not bad in and of itself, but if if you take arachidonic acid found in meat, it will cause lots of inflammation, and inflammation kills brain neurons, and it will hinder the production of acetylcholine, which helps in cognitive function. Acetylcholine is a type of hormone um, that helps in cognitive function, and so this will in turn show cognitive decline. Not really decline, but your cognitive function will be lessened. Will be lessened and lessened and so on. And you won't have a clear memory. Ellen White says in the spirit of prophecy it is termed it benumbs the mind, it benumbs the brain. By benumbing the brain, what she refers to scientifically is the arachidonic acid and its ability to suppress the production of acetylcholine, a brain, a hormone, a chemical, a messenger chemical that is essential for movement, cognitive function, and all that. So the other thing, aside from the foods that we've talked about, also poor cooking is normally a cause of disease. You shouldn't overcook your food. Shouldn't overcook your food. The food combination is also very so poor cooking. What is poor cooking? Overcooking, deep frying, direct heating, mostly your oils, directly heating your oils, and the ingredients, watery food, too much spices. That is soup. This is what entails poor cooking. So it will make the foods to be hard to digest. There are loss of nutrients, as we saw, minor minerals and the vitamins, they'll be lost. And such substances, overcooked foods will always contain carcinogen substances, which are really not carcinogen, are cancer causing. Carcinogenic substances are the cancer causing substances, the enzymes that tend to cause cancer or feeds tumor, yeah, and so on. So this is the deep frying with the chips and the rest. So yeah, I think I'll just end there. This is a very nice salad, steamed vegetable. Alternative. This is the alternative of deep frying. Just baking them in an oven. If it is your potatoes, baking them in an oven or air frying. Avoid too much spices. If you have ulcers, and avoid too much spices. So you see, are you seeing how these particular food, the vegetarian kinds of food, are very nice looking and all that? So the proper cooking of food is the most important accomplishment, especially where meat is not made a principal article of food. Is good cooking an essential requirement? So when cooking vegetables, spinach should at least take 3 minutes. Asparagus or the green asparagus, the green beans, that's your piece. They should take 3 to 5 minutes in cooking. Yeah, this is very important, and actually, this is something that you need to know. You might have reformed health, but you're not taking meat, you're not taking milk, you're not taking eggs, but you're cooking the wrong way, and so you'll still even get sick despite of being a vegetarian. So the vegetables should be cooked wisely. Spinach, don't cook it for more than 3 minutes. Asparagus, the green beans or your peas, take 3 to 5 minutes. The collard greens, the sukuma wiki, the kales, the Swiss chard, and other heartily leafy greens, 5 to 7 minutes. Do not take more. Cauliflower. These are the hard vegetables. Take 8 to 10 minutes cooking them. The hard vegetables is in number 5. So take 8 to 10 minutes when cooking your broccoli, when cooking your cauliflower. And when cooking beet, carrots, these are now the hard vegetables, the potatoes, the turnips, and other vegetables, other root vegetables. Take 10 to 15 minutes. This is where now your traditional vegetables now fall in. Their SOP says coarse vegetables. Coarse vegetables should be at least cooked. So 10 to 15 minutes are normally enough. Your carrots. Actually, carrots, if you cook carrots and you see it changes its color, it's normally very hard to see carrot change its color. But if you cook and you see that the colors significantly change, just know that you've not cooked it in the right way. Let the vegetables maintain its color. If you're cooking peas, and the piece at the end of your cooking, the piece probably is light green instead of being dark green the way it normally is. Know that you've overcooked that food, you've interfered with the vitamins, you've interfered with the minerals, and it's just better that you go without eating it. The proteins will still be there either way. So examples of alternative foods are these. They're very beautiful looking, a variety of color. The more variety the color, the more vitamins, the more minerals you get, the more phytochemicals, the better carotene and etc. So the Lord will teach the obedient how to. In grains, fruits, vegetables, and nuts are to be found all the food elements that we need. If we will come to the Lord in simplicity of mind, He will teach us how to prepare wholesome food, free from the taint of flesh. This is interesting. So I really couldn't believe that I could finish these slides in an hour. There was a time I was doing some health lectures in Technical University of Kenya. We took about 3 days going through the slides that we've gone through today. It was three hours because every session was an hour. So it took 3 hours going through all these slides. But today, we've taken close to 1 hour, and some minutes going through all these slides. And this is a chart of food combination. I'll just send you the slides and you'll go through it. I'd like to stop at this particular point and invite any questions.
Good evening. In addition to what our brother said, number one, the excess carbohydrates that we take, most of it is stored under our skin. Excess is stored in the liver. When it is being stored in the liver, the body cannot take it anymore. If the body cannot take it anymore, it cannot take much food. The excess, it's being stored all the time you take food, it is stored all the time you take excess, it is stored. Then, now the person starts to bulge, you gain weight. Number two, cholesterol plus salt in excess. It causes gallbladder stones, it causes kidney stones. So we need to check on our cholesterol levels. Another thing our brother said about fish, the fish that we eat, when we do our farming in our farms, the excess, the fertilizer that we use, the chemicals that we spray our flowers like in Naivasha, all those is taken away, washed away to the river. So our fish eat on those chemicals. When they consume, we also consume the same chemicals and we get diseases. About sodium and potassium, we work on in our nutrition. Our bodies, we check all the nutrients that we need. For example, we need the amino acids, the vitamins, and the minerals and the fats. When we do in excess, we get some level, like for example, we take a lot of salt, sodium, by sodium. When we take a lot of sodium, our bodies tend to swell, edema. Then the sodium goes high, potassium goes down. So we get hypertension. I think that's what I can add.
Okay, thank you, Asnet. So there are two people who raised their hand, and Celestine, you can go first, then Crocus.
Thanks for this opportunity. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this insight. I'm actually informed. I just wanted to find out how, when I was about to ask many questions, Asnet has just talked. So just to react to what she has said is that storage of the cholesterol in the gallstones, that solidified cholesterol. How do we get rid of it without going necessarily for a surgery? I'm saying this because I'm a victim, yeah? I'm actually due for a surgery to have the stones removed. How can we get them off without going for that surgery? Number two, how do you balance? How do you ensure that you don't take more of this and more of that? Because when we make this food, there's no measure of the ingredients in the food, the fat, the proteins, the carbohydrates. So how do you strike a balance so that it doesn't become harmful to your body? Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Celestine. Crocus, you can go. Hoping I pronounced your name correctly, Crocus.
Don't know whether you can hear my voice.
Yes, we can get you now.
Good evening. Unanipata?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I once listened to, not once but a couple of times, listened to some presentations made by Barbara O'Neill. I don't know whether you know her. And she speaks something concerning wheat. And then there's also a book called Wheat Belly. And she says that about in the 50s that the wheat was hybridized, and that they never did a case study on its implications on the human health. I don't know whether you know anything concerning that, and whether you can comment. I don't know whether it's exaggerated, but she says that it can only be digested by a cast iron gut. That's what she says. And also, I don't know, for my context, because it is a campus setup, I don't know whether these presentations at least can be made in such a way that perhaps you are not pushed to the limit, or perhaps you are not so much in the extreme. Something that is somewhat tailor-made based on the options that are available. For instance, if let's say I live within the campus, it would be so difficult for me to heed the very heavy meal in the morning, and that's the lighter meal, uh, at least in the middle of the day. So, what can you say concerning that? Thank you.
I'd like to begin with the last question. I see our time is also up. And well. I'd like to begin with the last question. So, about the heavy meal and having the presentations tailor-made to those who are in campus. That's a genuine concern. It's a genuine concern. But then, when we talk about health, there are normally principles to it, and in the spirit of prophecy, we are told to always do the best that we can with the information or with the knowledge that we have. Do the best that you can with whatever is available. For us is to just study the facts and study the principles, because there is no one size fit for all. There is no one who is a criterion for all. But then there's one thing that we know for sure, that there are certain things that should not be eaten. Certain. There's a way that you should live, and so on and so forth. I was in UN, and there's a time we actually tried to ensure we just liaised with some we liaised with some um, someone who, there was a place we used to eat called Klabu, at some vibanda. So we liaised with one of the people who used to own an hotel there, and told him about our desire to eat a very heavy meal in the morning. And we rallied everyone who actually also shared in the same interest, and we used to take heavy meals in the morning. And so this depends on how you also push yourself to just ensure that you meet these particular principles. So I think that's how I'll just answer that particular question. And on bilestones, um, on the bile salt, there's a lot that you need to do, but yeah, there's a lot that I really need to consider before giving a prescription. So probably you can just reach out, but commonly we do some juices, apple juice, some olive oil. You mix olive oil, half a cup of olive oil to half a cup of lemon juice. You drink it. You fast on it for about a week, or fast on lemon juice from 8 to 6 p.m. After every 2 hours, just taking apple juice, and so on and so forth. If you can just reach out so that we can talk more
Yeah,
about.
thanks.
And I've written my number on the screen. So you can just reach out. There's a program that I believe ASNET we studied in our last training. I believe that we studied about the gallstones. So allow me stop so that I do not proceed further. It's time to sleep. Let's believe and pray. We thank you, Lord, for enabling us listen to you throughout this session, and as we plan and prepare to hold a medical camp, a health expo in Rongai, may you equip us with the necessary information and knowledge that is needed in training in teaching and instructing your children, the patients that they'll see there, instructing them into right habits of life. And above all, Lord, may you always keep in remembrance. May you always keep in our remembrance these particular principles so that we can always use them from time to time, is my prayer, trusting and believing in Jesus' name. Amen. So Mary, you can just type your question.
Not really a question. I also wanted to add something small, if you can allow me in less than a minute. To my brother, the very last question.